Man, who's not fired up after that intro? Yeah, folks, it's that time. Welcome back, channel. It is time to start my review on this brand new 2024 Honda Rebel 1100. Okay guys, let me jump in here real quick and tell you a little bit about this review that I'm giving. There are so many reviews out there on YouTube about this Honda Rebel 1100 DCT. You can find them everywhere. And while my review is not going to be so much a technical review of the bike and every little thing about it, it's going to be more a review of how it feels to ride, the perspective, my perspective from a fairly short guy, a Goldwing rider, on what it feels like to ride this bike. It's a little different than some of the other reviews that you can find out there. And if you want to know all about this bike, you really should check those other reviews. And I can highly recommend Cruiseman's review on this bike, where he goes in depth into a lot of the stuff on this bike. A lot of it I may not cover. So anyway, I hope you enjoy my review and understand it is just more of a how it feels to ride this bike. I'll give you specifics about the bike for sure, but how does it feel to get on it and ride around? That's what we're going to touch on. So let's get started. This is the DCT model. It's in a beautiful green color. And man, what a blast is this to ride. Now I need to say a little caveat here. Everything I'm going to say today is coming from a Goldwing owner perspective. I've been on a Goldwing, the pinnacle of Honda, for the past 18 months. I'm a little bit spoiled. So take that with the rest of this review. But I gotta say, what fun. And right off the bat, this bike takes me back to my Honda 125 or my Nighthawk 650 days. And what fun to ride. I mean, it's so nimble, and you know, there's no protections. You know, there's this little batwing fairing, but that's not doing anything. So you're getting the full impact of the wind and the vibration of that V-twin. Oof. Boy, that makes me miss my V-twin. I had the monster of all V-twins, the VTX 1800. But that sound, unmistakable V-twin sound and feeling, you can just feel it in the bike. Now I will tell you, it feels like the handlebars are a little forward. We talked about that, but not uncomfortably so, and I can certainly get used to it. The seat height is lower. We'll talk about that, but my feet are firmly planted on the ground. And the foot pegs, I don't know, it's because I'm sitting lower, I guess, but the foot pegs are higher. My knees are higher. I'm more in an S shape than I am on the Honda Goldwing. I'm leaning over a little on this bike, whereas I'm more upright in the Honda Goldwing. And the intent of this video is not to compare this to the Honda Goldwing. It's to review this bike and who it's for. It's for a different audience. So much fun to ride. And it's got good power. Good power in standard mode. We're going to flip it to sport mode in a minute and see, but man, this has got all the power you would need. I'm like a kid with his first bike. You know who's this bike for? Well, I'm telling you, if you're just going to commute to work and you don't have, you know, an hour-long commute, I would say under an hour-long commute to work, and if you're just going to putt around town, if you're just going to go to the movies or go to the store, go pick up some food, whatever, man, this bike is where it's at. So much fun. What you're not going to want to do on this bike is go for all-day rides. I'm pretty sure that it would get uncomfortable for an all-day ride. Again, coming from the perspective of a Goldwing rider. So the DCT on this, every bit as effective as the Goldwing. It shifts smoothly. And of course I'm used to a DCT, so that's probably part of it, but effortlessly, just changing between gears. You don't have to worry about it. Minimal vibration here. What I will say is the turn signals don't auto cancel. And since I'm used to auto canceling turn signals, that means I'm riding around here like an old guy with my turn signal still on a mile down the road. How you like this TFT? We're going to go over the elements of the TFT in just a minute. Let's start out my review by going over the specifics. Let's take a look at the aesthetics of the bike. First, here we go. Alright guys, here it is. The Honda Rebel 1100 DCT version with the, it's the version that has the saddlebags in it, their touring version if you will, although it's not interstate touring. And here it is in this armored green metallic paint job that is just so cool. Matte armored green metallic with everything else blacked out. The engine, the frame, the wheels. Man, is this a sharp looking piece of machine. Let's take a walk around it. That is very cool. Alright guys, let's talk about the dimensions of this bike for a moment. It has a width of 33.4 inches with a length of 88.2 inches and a wheelbase of 59.8 inches as compared to the Goldwing, which has a wheelbase of 66.7 inches. It has a ground clearance of 4.7 inches, and the front forks have a 28-degree rake to them compared to a 30.5 rake on the Goldwing. The curb weight of this bike is 542 pounds or 246 kilos as compared to 845 pounds for the Goldwing. External weight capacity is 328 pounds. That's rider, passenger, baggage, everything else that's not the bike. Honda does not recommend pulling a trailer or adding a sidecar to this bike. And the seat height on this bike is 27.5 inches as compared to the Goldwing at 29.3 inches. All right. Just a beautiful bike, as I said. Love the way this thing looks. Now, let's talk about some of the specs of this bike. Here we go. Alright guys, let's talk about this engine on this bad boy. It is a 1083cc liquid-cooled parallel twin, 66.1 cubic inch, giving 81 horsepower and 68 foot-pounds of torque. It idles at 1,250 RPMs, and its final drive is chain drive, and with a recommended slack of 9/16 to 1 inch. Looking at the storage capacities on this bike, the gas tank is 3.6 gallons, which includes a 1.1 gallon reserve. The saddlebags combined hold 35 liters. However, the left saddlebag holds more than the right saddlebag because of the muffler. Its turning radius is 9.5 feet as compared to the Goldwing 11.2 feet. This Rebel turns on a dime. The coolant reservoir holds 1.84 quarts of coolant. The engine oil reservoir holds 4.2 quarts of oil, up to 4.4 quarts if you're also changing the filter. As we look on the left-hand side of this engine, you'll notice the screw cap here for the oil reservoir, and then further down another screw cap for the oil dipstick. As I've said before, this bike has a hard-keyed ignition, not a key fob. And under this side panel, you will find the fuse box for the bike. And on the right hand side of the engine, you'll see the placard for the DCT, dual clutch transmission. This thing acts like an automatic, will change gears for you. We have the brake lever right here, a good throw from the right foot peg. Okay, still on the right hand side of this bike, you will see behind this right side panel is the battery for the bike. Just below that is the rear brake fluid reservoir, and then the shocks. The rear shocks for this bike are 12.5 millimeter shocks with preload adjusters and a piggyback pressurized reservoir behind. They have 3.7 inches of travel. And the muffler here does have a guard that stands out away from it to keep you from burning your legs. Alright, coming around to the front of the bike, we have an 18-inch front wheel wrapped by a 130 by 70 front tire. And the front brakes are made up of a 330 millimeter front disc and a radial mounted 4-piston caliper. The front suspension is two 43 millimeter forks with a 4.8 inch travel and has a spring-loaded adjuster at the top. Alright, moving around to the back of this bike, we have 16-inch wheels that are wrapped by a 180 by 65 tire. The rear brakes are a single 256 millimeter disc and set of calipers. Alright guys, let's go over the left handlebar controls here. We have the lights, both the bright and the standard headlight, and you press down to flash if you're going to pass somebody. You've got the hazard light button here. You've got the mode and select buttons, which toggles through various different things, one of which being the ride modes. But these help you walk through that TFT display. We have the horn button. Hey, Goldwing, Honda Goldwing, you could take a cue from the Rebel. Look at the size of this horn button. Easy to find with your thumb. We have turn signals, as I mentioned previously. They are not auto-canceling. And then we have the shift down and on the back side shift up paddle shifters right here. This is the parking brake up here. You pull it up to engage. It locks in place like that. To disengage, there's a button right over here on the side. You can see it's got a little bit of a red trim when it's engaged. You pull up a little on the lever and you push in on that button and it releases just like that. You got to pull up on the lever a little bit so that you can get that button to push in. But it works effectively. Very manually, but effectively. Alright, let's talk about this TFT for a minute. It's extremely bright, and there's brightness settings, and it's very, very capable for everyday driving. Let's turn the bike on and see. And there you go. As you can see, even with the glare of this camera and the glare of the sky, that's an easily readable readout there. So we're going to go through some of these things. We have the tachometer at the top. We have a clock right here that displays normal time and military time both. We have a gear indicator. Right now it's in neutral. Miles per hour indicator. We have air temperature over here on the right. We have ride modes right here. Right now it's in standard. You can switch between standard, rain, sport, and user defined. We'll talk about the user defined more in a minute too. And then you have this lower section down here that we'll talk about in the specifics, what you can display here. This is the gas gauge. I only have one tick out of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got 5 spaces for squares here. I only have 1 of 5. This bike needs some gas. Maybe I'll do that on the way home. And then we have all of our indicator lights over here on the right hand side. Neutral, we've got cruise control, we've got ABS, we've got oil pressure, we've got high and low beams, we've got traction control, we've got torque control, we've got check engine light, all kinds of things on this little tab on the side of the TFT. All right, now moving over to the right handlebar, we have the electronic start right here. So when you turn the key on, you got to hit the start to start it up. Then it's very much like the Goldwing. You have a neutral and a drive button and a manual mode button where you can press it and, as I said earlier, switch gears all by yourself. You've got the cruise control engagement button here, on off if you will, and then set and resume is over here. Increase, decrease speed is the same toggle switch over here. And then you've got your handbrake up there. You've got your mirrors, which are top mounted. Those are kind of cool. You're able to see everything just fine, at least I was. They didn't rattle, they didn't shake, they're very firm, they're excellent mirrors. Guys, here are the saddlebags of this Honda Rebel, and I found them to be kind of plasticky and a little clunky. You push the button to release the saddlebag lid, and there is a key lock for each of them. And as you can see, there's plenty of room down in there, but to close them, it's kind of hard. It doesn't want to close unless you just really push down on it hard. That's a little clunky, so I'm gonna zonk it for the saddlebag closure. All right, you can clearly see this bike has the goods. And I can't iterate this too much. It's just a joy to ride. If you're just looking for a putt around town commuter bike, this will turn heads. This will do it in style. The suspension feels, as I'm riding, a little stiffer. It doesn't bottom out on things, but it's smooth enough. The seat is comfortable. Right now, on the short ride, it's comfortable. When I picked the bike up, I had it on highway speeds, and it's a little unnerving on the highway, especially when big trucks come by you. This bike is 508 pounds, as we talked about just a little bit ago in the specifics, and it gets blown around a bit on the highway. And plus, I felt a little vulnerable on this bike on the highway, more so than what I'm used to. Love the cruise control. Now, I had this bike set on cruise on the freeway at about 70 miles an hour, and it handled okay. Not something I'd want to be on the freeway for any length of time on, though. But man, just putting around these streets, oh my gosh, what fun. So it's fairly nimble. The steering is nimble. I think the rake on this bike is a little more shallower. You can just kind of feel that when you ride, when you turn. Turns a little quicker, smaller turning radius. Man, I tell you, this would be a fun second bike. If you had more than one bike, you got the Goldwing, the big cruiser. This would be a fun second bike just to putt around town on.
I know I keep harping on that, but the throttle is responsive. There's no lag in the throttle whatsoever. Now you can switch gears manually if you want to with the, oh, see, I had my turn signal on. For how long now? No, folks, I'm not turning. Anyway, as I was saying, you can change gears on this DCT using the paddle shifter. It's very similar to the Goldwing, up or down. Because like right now I'm in 5th gear. If I jump on it, all right, it jumps down 1 gear and gets up and goes, but that could be a little more responsive. So maybe you want to just take it and downshift manually before you jump on it. There's nobody behind me. Let's see how these brakes do. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, that was the back brake. It does have ABS, so I didn't feel very much skid right there, so it didn't activate. That's good. We're going to try the front brake here. Try not to crash. In 3, 2, 1. Quite a bit of fork dive, but that was pretty much wholly with the front brake. But it was controlled. Very controlled for a single disc on one side of the wheel. Right, let's see if I can hop over into sport, see if it'll let me do that. Yep, alright. Am I in? Alright, so now I'm in sport mode. Hard to tell. Hard to tell. Let's see. Oh, it's definitely more peppy in sport mode. Alright, you heard that. In sport mode, it does wind out the RPMs a little more. Hoping to give you a little more torque and speed before changing gears on you. Alright, well, I'm going to have this bike all week, guys, so we will try to get on it a little more if I can, weather permitting, time permitting. But if time does not permit, I'm here to tell you, this bike is a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Alright, let's swing by and get some gas for this guy. And see how easy that is. This tank, as you heard me say in the specifics, is a 3.6 gallon tank. That's not overly huge. Has a 1 gallon reserve included in that 3.6 gallons. I don't know quite what tells you you're in reserve. Yeah, this thing has plenty of power. Lots of fun. Gosh, I keep harping on that. Lots of fun. What a great second bike. If I could afford a second bike, this might be it. Alright. Looks like this gas cap is key activated, so we're going to put the key in there and twist it. And it just opens up. That's handy. Doesn't go anywhere. Don't have to store it anywhere. It's attached. Love that. And then we just have an open tank. Alright. Well, I'm going to put mid-grade in here. I will have told you in the specifics what grade gas you can use in here, but I'm sure mid is acceptable. So, we will just Keep an eye on the levels here. And fill it up, like I said, at 3.6 gallons. Not going to take much to fill it up. And there it is. That didn't take long and not much. I'm going to fill it up to the bottom of that entry ring. Just like that. I'm sure it has an overflow. Oh yeah, I see the overflow hose right there in the collar. Alright, that's enough for now. I put in 2.1 gallons. And I think we're just going to press this down, right? And it pops back around just like my VTX was. Okay, that was simple. Let's see what that does to the gas gauge. Yep, all the way back to full. We are in business. And you can put around all day on just a little bit of gas. Very nice. Alright, I'm going to head to the house. More later, folks.
Alright guys, this bike comes in this matte armored metallic green. It also comes in a black version that's very nice. There's some other accessories that you can buy for it. You can get a gas tank mat to keep your gas tank from getting scratched up. Also side mats for the gas tank to keep your legs from scratching up the tank. It comes with a passenger seat and backrest as optional equipment. You can also get the seat itself in different colors and patterns. This brown one here, also in black. And if you don't want a passenger seat, there's always the option for a luggage rack on the back. Alright, so let me give you my final thoughts on this Honda Rebel 1100 DCT after having had it for 4, 5, 6 days and riding it. First, let's talk about the look of the bike. I really like this matte green paint and the blacked out look. I think it's fantastic. It just looks sharp. It turns heads. It has been turning heads. I like the way the bike sits. It's well proportioned back to front. I just like, I like all of the aesthetics of it. Really nice. Okay, and how about the feel of the bike? Let's talk about the engine. I really miss that V-twin sort of vibration and rumble. Really feels nice. The engine feels strong. The bike feels comfortable, feels very nimble on the road. The riding position is nice. It sits a little forward for my taste. I feel like I'm leaning a little bit forward. And for an old guy like me, that's not sustainable for the long term, but for a younger rider, it'd be just fine. And it wasn't uncomfortably so. For short rides and just putting around town, I think I'd be fine. But the riding position is very comfortable. It's low enough slung. The seat height is low enough where I can get both feet on the ground, and that's very comforting at a stoplight when you can get both feet on the ground. So the riding position is pretty nice. My knees are a little high, but I understand that's why, because they want the pegs up high for when you're, making turns. I would say a decent riding position. Fit and finish on this bike is excellent. Nothing rattles, everything feels tight. The throttle is responsive. The mirrors are in solid, they don't vibrate. The fairing is very solid. It knocks a little bit of wind off your hands, but doesn't move around, doesn't rattle. You don't hear anything rattling on the bike when you ride. Everything's tucked away very nicely. It just feels like one solid piece. The whole bike feels like one. You guys know what I'm talking about. All right, and how about that sound? That V-twin sound. I miss that. It sounds great. It's not as deep and rumbly as a Harley would be for sure, and not as deep as my Honda VTX 1800 was. But it's definitely noticeable as a V-twin and also turns heads. And I love the sound when you're riding. Just makes you feel like you're on a motorcycle. Okay, so who is this bike really for? Well, it's for somebody who is maybe a young rider, just starting out. It's a great bike to learn on. For somebody who just wants to put around town and do local rides, this bike would be great for that. For the female riders in my audience, this would be a great bike for a female. Easy to handle, feet flat on the ground, you feel more confident and sturdy on it. I think it's a great bike for our female riders out there. Also, if you're a short guy, if you're just a short rider in general, this bike would be good for you. It's easier to get your feet on the ground. If you're a tall rider, this is going to be a bit uncomfortable for you. Your knees are going to be too high up, putting too much pressure on your tailbone. You're not going to like it. But if you're a short rider like me, this is a great bike to have. It's also a great bike for those looking for a second bike. If you're a Goldwing owner like me and you just would like a second bike to, for a quick trip to the store or putt around with friends after breakfast, say, it's a great bike as a second bike for somebody. Okay, let's talk for a minute about the things I really don't care for on this bike. First of all, the saddlebag lids. They're difficult to close. The whole saddlebag itself feels a little hollow and plasticky. I think they could have done a better job on that. While I love this paint job, I have no idea how difficult it is to clean, number one, and to buff out scratches, number two. That could be a real issue. Another thing I don't care for is, this is not a highway bike. You just feel exposed and buffeted a bit by the wind on the highway. I mean, it's heavy enough at 542 pounds to hold its own on the freeway, but when a big 18-wheeler comes by you, or there's a car in front of you and that tailwind from that car is kind of whooping you back and forth, I guess I'm spoiled a little bit with the Goldwing. I feel a lot more secure on the Goldwing. And the next thing I don't care about, similar to that, is visibility. How well are you seen? These tail lights, this tail light is very small and very low. Understandably so, it fits the bike. But that makes it harder, in my opinion, for me as a rider to be seen. And I've had a few people just in these last few days come up behind me, I thought a lot faster and a lot closer than they ought to be. And man, dark bike, dark engine, small lights. It seems a little bit more risky to me to be riding something like this. So if this was my long-term bike, I'd have to find another solution. One good solution is that brake-free helmet light. You've seen it on Cruiseman's garage. You've seen it different places. I own one. I don't typically ride with it on my Goldwing because I have so many lights on the back. But on this bike, I'm pretty sure I would ride with it because I just need to be more visible. All right, let's talk about the overall value for what you're getting. I think it's a great value for the price. Now the 2024 DCT model comes in slightly under 11,000, I think it was. If you're willing to pay for a 2023 model, the same version DCT, you can find them for under 10,000. Not much at all other than the paint has changed between 23 and 24. I think that's a steal. I think it's a great value. So very pleased with this, very appreciative of Honda for letting me borrow it for a little bit of time here and do a review for you guys on my channel. I hope this brought some value to you. If you're looking to buy a motorcycle, one of this size, maybe even specifically this Honda Rebel 1100, I don't think you can go wrong. Thank you for joining me, channel, and we'll talk again soon. Until then, ride safe and God bless.